Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's Wednesday. Just updating the Red Book. We're up to 150 this year so far. I'm keeping up. Little fun girl sticker and a gift from my daughter. So I'm keeping up with the book, which is great. It's nice to keep adding to that sucker. It's fun to kind of just flip back and see everything. It's much easier than scrolling through the Twitter feed looking for stuff. We had a chat this afternoon, Rasa and I, over on her channel. So if you want to go check that out, I'd encourage you to head over there. We talked for just over an hour today. Didn't go too long. Neither of us had a chance to read too much, even though when I show you what I've read, it's a couple of 4-issue miniseries, parts 2 and 3 from a Naughty Bits story, a graphic album. So it seems like a lot, but they were pretty quick reads, all of them. Yeah. All right, let's just go for it. Let's just get into it. So first one up, because I don't have much to say about it, is this is Briar, issue number 3. Right? Yes, issue number 3. I'm done with this one. It's not on a pull list. I was picking it up off the shelf. Number 1, I thought was pretty good. Got my interest. Number 2 was still okay. This one kind of just fell through. Hello, Gore Vidal. Doing good, man. Yeah, it's doing. My body is getting used to being outside and working all day again. So I was a little broken, but I'm doing fine. So I'm done with this. The art is good. I just found that this one kind of hit a tone, like it was trying to be comedic. They're all of a sudden dropping F-bombs. Not that I have a problem with bad language, far from it. It just kind of seems to taking this turn that I'm just not into. I'm just not interested. Like I got to the end of the comic and I was kind of like, what did I read? Do I care about these characters? Do I care about what happens next? And I just don't. So yeah, I'm just gonna pack it in there. Hello, Colin Blanchett. Yes, excellent. Thank you very much. I am back, and I'm gonna say the exact same things that you just watched. I almost placed an order with Lone Star. I filled a cart, emptied half a cart, put some other stuff in, played around, and then realized I can't fucking afford this. So closed it all up. I think I whittled it down to about $80 American, because they have some stuff that's just come in that's been on my wish list for quite a while. So yeah, I'm gonna have to wait for that. But man, so tempted to push that checkout now button. So that's Briar. No more of that. Why don't we go with I don't know, why don't we go with this one? So this next one, so I got last week, or the last stream where I was doing my wrap, I was talking about the issues of Heavy Metal magazine that I found at Cover to Cover. So I went back and I got a few more issues that I was missing. And I read the July, August, and September of 1984, those 3 issues. I just read the Scoiton story in that one that I was reading from before. I don't have them handy, which is why I'm not showing you. What a great little story. Really, really fantastic. It just kind of kept on that trajectory. That was the one that had the very specific layouts, with the 1 page of story and 1 page of kind of intro. Kept that form throughout the whole thing. Ended really nicely. I don't know if it kind of tied everything up. I feel like I still have questions, but having questions at the end of a story isn't so bad. Beautiful. That art stayed. That art stayed consistent as you would expect throughout the whole thing. But such a good story. I really need to look to see if that does exist in its own format, because I would love to get that one. It did get me on a quest to look for the third volume of the Hollow Grounds trilogy, where I've got 2 of the volumes. I'm just missing 1. It was collected. I found some copies on Abe Books. I think I found one of the hardcovers on eBay, but it was like $100 or something like that for that 1 volume. And then again, I got to the same place going, I can't fucking afford that. Why am I looking? So I bookmarked a couple of things and moved on. But it's put me back in a Scoitian kind of mood. Yeah, they're beautiful volumes, Gore. They're really nice ones, those hardcovers. I really want to finish that trilogy, and that last one, Neo Gigon, I think is what it's called, has been really difficult to find. Not that these other ones are super easy to find. I got super lucky with Red River Books, the upstairs, months, like a year or 2 ago, whenever that was. So I'm hopeful that I can eventually be patient and find that third one without having to resort to buying it off of somebody online there, but it might come down to that. I did end up selling a couple of things on eBay, which was really nice. I had some books sitting there for a while, and yeah, somebody picked them up the other day, so that was beautiful. I've got a couple of other auctions up there now. The intent is always to use that money and put it aside and earmark it for other things, but as it happens, these sales come, and it comes at a really good time. So they don't deal with PayPal anymore, which I had forgotten. So when they pay you out, it goes straight into your bank, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. I promise, not a bad thing. So let's talk about this one. So when I went to get those heavy metal magazines, I had a look around, picked up another couple issues of Naughty Bits, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I also picked up this from, it was published by Tundra. It's called Margot in Bad Town, and it is from 1991. Is that when it came out? Yes, 1991. So let's do the obligatory. Here it is against a comic, and here it is against other kind of European graphic albums. It's a giant, man. They did a really big volume. So I have these out because it's the same writer that it's this Jerome Sharin from The Magician's Wife and Billy Budd KGB, which I read. I don't know, was it? I feel like it might have been 2 years ago, but I'm not really sure. It was a little while ago anyway that I read these. Gore Vidal had talked about these too, I believe, but Earl Grey had talked about these and spoke highly when he was looking at I think he had a couple of videos where he was looking at Francois Bouc art. So I was kind of hopeful, and this one just kind of fell flat for me. Really, really glad I picked it up. I think anytime you see Tundra, it's worth the price of admission just to give it a shot. I'll show you some of the pages here. Really, really nice art. Presently cutting the fat in my collection, comics and books. Oh, wow. It means I no longer will be buying Saga and will sell my singles to a friend of mine for cheap, including #1. I like Billy Budd. Yeah, I sold my Saga single issues last year, I think, and got a pretty good price for all of them, including #1 as well, too. It's always a good idea, Gore. Cut the fat from the collection. It's never a bad thing. Yeah, and as for Billy Budd, I remember liking both of those, Magician's Wife and Billy Budd. So our main character here, Margot, is from a small town, Prairie Dog, Texas, 1986. And she's desperate to get the hell out of there and move to, I think it's New York City. And she wants to become an actress. And her boyfriend, her farmer boyfriend here, has one last stab at trying to keep her in town to become his wife. But her mind is set. She's getting the hell out of town. She's sick of the small town life and decides to take off. And of course, she has big dreams of moving to the city. The art is gorgeous in it, but at this point, I don't really know what happens with this story. It almost feels like it's a bunch of kind of short 1-page or 2-page strips that appeared somewhere, and then it got put together. The idea of like kind of these newspaper strips where there's sort of a thread running through them, but each story almost feels to be its own individual piece, but it never quite connects. I don't really understand the stuff that's going on. I don't understand the story behind it. I'm just not sure. And again, when I'm up against these kind of things, I think, yeah, exactly, Gore. I think that it's me, that I've missed something, or I'm just not smart enough to understand what it is they're trying to get across. Gorgeous art, though. It looks beautiful. And this, having it in this oversized volume is fantastic. Like seeing these pages, and it's a nice sturdy hardcover too, so nothing is separating yet. Beautiful stuff. So she ends up moving in, squatting in this building. Well, what turns out to be squatting. She pays someone some money. She comes home one day to find these guys tearing her apartment apart. And they're part of some group that's going, and I think they're going and destroying buildings so their property value really crashes. So this other developing firm that's coming through trying to buy up properties can't make any money. That's the thing. That's the part I'm not too sure about, because they go around and kind of chase people out of their houses, including old women, these little old women. And I just don't understand why that is. I don't get it. It's never really explained. They're almost, because they're portrayed almost like the good guys in the story. So when she's around, these guys keep kind of destroying buildings, and they tend to want to work a little harder than normal when she's around, to kind of show off to her. So their boss comes to see Margot and says, "I'll make you. I want to put you on the crew and put you in charge, so we can kind of keep doing these contracts." So we get a lot of shots like this, some good poses from Margot and the dudes hauling wood, as so to speak, with their shirts off. So it ain't all bad. And it just kind of goes from there. Her boyfriend from Texas comes to see her, ends up staying and joining the crew. She kind of gets a different look going on here. Here she is right here. Almost looking like the man with no name. And kind of just really takes charge of this crew and takes charge of these jobs. Yeah, it just sort of ends, peters out too at the end here. Let's flip to the back. It's a thin volume. Margot, Queen of the Night. We're wreckers. Nobody else will have us. Margot, couldn't we go anywhere else, like a museum? From Prairie Dog to Manhattan, the end of the line, or a new life? Not even Margot can say. So she kind of accepts her new lot in life, and you're left with what's going to happen next. But honestly, I don't know if there was another volume that existed after this, or what the story is. And then we get a quick write-up of the artist and writer at the back. So yeah, I'm not really sure. It was, yeah, and Colin is saying the same thing. Seem remembering them being kind of blah. It was just very blah. It was a beautiful looking book, but the story, I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't catch my interest. You nailed it there, Brian Ewing. Hello, by the way. Character design looks a lot like the main character from Tracker. Absolutely, and that never occurred to me till you just said it. Disappointing when the story doesn't connect, but the artwork does. Yeah, totally. So, there's more Margot books. Okay, there you go. So 2. So is the other one? I'm assuming the other one is Tundra as well. Hey, Paulo Costa was with us today, and this is co-published with somebody, Comics USA, and he was saying he had a couple of Comics USA books as well, and they were translations of European stuff. I've never heard of them. They're a new name to me, but like I said, that was the main reason I was buying it. If you see that Tundra logo, I feel like you got to snatch it up. You can't let it pass. On our chat last week with Rasa and myself, I was talking about a couple of mini series from DC Comics and pulled them out of the cabinets here and dug into them. I finished this one this afternoon. Batman, the GCPD, Gotham City Police Department. So this is from 1996, written by Chuck Dixon. This one has art by Jim Aparo and inks by Bill Sienkiewicz. They're just a 4-issue miniseries. These ones these focus on, in this case, the Gotham City cops. So Batman isn't in it. The costumed Margot Queen of the Night was published by Heavy Metal. Makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Blanchett. Doesn't focus on the Bat, doesn't focus on any of the costume villains, just concentrates on the cops on the beat. And it's this is 1996, and it's very much that NYPD Blue. I would say this really reeks of like an NYPD Blue type of show, which isn't a bad thing. I was a huge fan of that show. Watched it religiously with my mom because she was a fan of those cop dramas as well too, like Homicide, Life on the Streets, and stuff like that. So we watched a bunch of those shows together. But NYPD Blue was one of my favorites for a long time. Not a bad. This miniseries wasn't too bad. There's a few storylines going on here. One involving Detective Bullock, who at the beginning of issue 1 decides he's had enough of these costume freaks. And yes, this is pre-Gotham Central there, Brian. Yes, correct. Has decided he had enough of these costume freaks, takes the bat and beats the shit out of this one guy. Breaks his arm, I think, gives him a mild concussion. So he ends up, Montoya decides that she's had enough. She can't deal with him anymore, and has to get transferred off his team. And he ends up getting investigated. On the other side, there's some criminals that are robbing a museum here. The Sprang. They nailed a baker's dozen of Dutch masters from the Sprang Gallery, 6 trays of uncut emeralds from the Van Meer Exchange. One of the guards is still comatose from their Billings House heist. These guys have declared war on Gotham Kitsch, and they're winning. Well, now that robbery is handed to a major crime. We'll get some action, Kaz, Mr. Sunshine. So it's these other two. I'm not familiar with these guys. Another 2 set of cops, one that used to be a lawyer, investigating this, and Montoya getting a gig going undercover for a politician whose life is getting threatened. And they don't ever really go into much detail about what exactly it is that this politician is trying to do. He's kind of played off as a kind of a prick. So there's a few storylines going on. So that's where it really starts feeling like one of those shows. It just has that flavor of, we're going to follow each of these characters. The stories themselves don't tie in together. Obviously, the only one that does is the Montoya and Bullock one, but that's the cases that they're investigating or what's going on with them personally. They don't tie in. It's just their relationship. It kind of plays into their relationship quite a bit as she ends up going undercover. And I don't want to say too much outside of this first issue. So it was good. I felt like it was a little much. It got a little difficult to follow. Oh yeah, and the other thing that Bullock is following is there's this string of murders that are happening, and at every scene of the killing, there's a teddy bear dressed up like the person that's dead. So he's investigating that to see what the hell is going on there. Seems like some form of a serial killer, but him and his new partner, Sook, I think is his new partner. Kevin Soong, sorry, Soong. So the classic, and that's where Bullock really reminds me of Andy Sipowicz from NYPD Blue, kind of mildly racist and you know, just kind of a hard ass, doesn't want to put up with any bullshit. So yeah, it was pretty good. It's not a bad one. I read them a long time ago and I absolutely loved them. And I think the thing that drew me to them originally was that cop drama thing for sure. But it's also, it was nice to get a book that wasn't focused on kind of Batman and the costume villains and stuff, right? Like it was, I wonder how it sat in 1996 when this came out. So yeah, that's that one. Let me catch up on the comments here. Been watching NYPD Blue in the afternoons. So that's awesome. Pre-Gotham Center. I'm shocked. No idea how I missed this. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the DC and some of these companies, they just have these mini series that popped up, and they're easy to miss for sure. They don't get a lot of hype. I love Aparo's art, especially on Batman. I'm not a Chuck Dixon fan though. Yeah, I can hear that. I hear that. I like Dixon. I thought he was. It's competent writing for both of these miniseries because he wrote the next one I'm going to talk about as well too. Looks like there's a new series running right now. There sure is, and it looks really intriguing. But I'm going to wait to see if there's a collected version. When there's a collected version, kind of seeing what people think. There's also another year one out there, isn't there? I have many unread Morning Glories comics by Nick Spencer. Don't know how I got them. Anyone here read them? Likely will part with them so far. Have 6 boxes that will be leaving my collection. Wow, Gord, that's intense. That's a good work. I read Brian Bolland is coming out with an autobiography soon. Oh, yes. I think he was talking about it on Kayfabe before, too. He does look like Andy, absolutely. I've been shocked they haven't created a TV show around that concept. Yeah, I think it might be past time for something like that, Brian. It feels like that ship has sailed for those kind of cop dramas. I don't know if you'd get any viewers of that kind of thing this day and age. I mean, I could be wrong. Dixon's year one of Robin and Batgirl are tremendous. Cool. So then the other one, so this one came out and the next month, the last issue came out in December of 1996, we get into Gordon's Law, another 4-issue miniseries. This time, still written by Chuck Dixon, but this time all the art is by Klaus Janson, except for the coloring. Let's do the proper credits. Colorist is Kevin Summers, Somers, and then good old John Costanza doing lettering. I thought he wanted to be a latex salesman. So the covers are fantastic. This one is pretty great. I really like Commissioner Gordon. I've always liked Commissioner Gordon as a character. I think he's super interesting. And this really shows Gordon as kind of a bit of a badass in this one. Like he's really driven. You get this kind of sense of him as a cop and what he deems important and how committed he is to the job. So again, I'll just kind of take you through the first issue. I won't talk about it more beyond that. The one thing I did have an issue with this one is there's a lot of cop characters in this one, and they all kind of look the fucking same. And it's later on in the series. It's kind of important who's who, and I found I was losing track because they all looked pretty similar. So I feel like the very last issue, it did that classic. I'm just going to just talk, and I'm going to tie up all the loose ends. But if you really think about it, there's a lot of loose ends in that tying up. And normally I'm totally fine with that. I can let that stuff slide. But this one, because I was kind of a little more invested in this story, I wish this was a 6-issue miniseries. I feel like just a couple of those 2 extra issues would have allowed them to explore and kind of beef out those little segments to kind of make it a better story. So the intro to this is Gordon is sent down. There's a hostage situation at a bank. They've already killed one of the hostages, and they're surrounded. So they don't know, these criminals don't know what to do. So as the cops come in and Gordon comes in to kind of take control, they can't get anybody on the phone from the inside. And now, of course, they're worried that they're just going to kill all the hostages. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to move forward. They don't want to storm the bank because, as Gordon says, it's like this bank is meant to keep people out. So once it's locked down, we don't stand a chance. And by the time we try to get in, they're going to hear us coming and kill everybody. So as they're kind of talking, there's a call over the police wire saying that there's been an explosion down the blocks. And they start putting it together that there's probably underground sewer system that's connecting the building to that location. So most of the crew goes down there, except for Commissioner Gordon and a few cops. Turns out it was them from the inside, so they come barreling out of the front door and almost and smash through a couple of the cop cars, almost taking out Gordon. When they finally, it's too late. Obviously, by the time he's put it together, it's too late. When they go in, they find that they've killed all of the hostages. They find the truck later abandoned. They have no leads. They don't know what this was about. So that's kind of the premise, and it's Gordon kind of his guilt over that situation of not being able to do anything about it, and all these people getting killed. A couple of crimes start coming up, and there's some of these bank notes start appearing on bodies pinned to their chest and things, pinned to their clothing. Is kind of like in this mocking kind of way. And then Gordon gets a lead that it might have been cops that were involved in this, and that kind of opens up the whole Serpico like story. Batman does make a couple of appearances, but Gordon pretty much tells him the entire time, stay the hell out of this. Because once he kind of gets that nugget that it might have been cops behind this, he doesn't talk to anybody about it. He gets a couple of guys that are close to him to work with him and keep it all real hush hush, because he doesn't want to scare the people off. He wants to try to catch these bad cops, again, in Serpico kind of fashion. Queen and Country is one I've always wanted to read, Brian. It's been high on my list, but I just never see it out there. So maybe I'll look for it at the library. Where's my notes? Give me one sec here. Let me make a note. Thank you for that. That's a good reminder. Queen and Country. Yeah, I'll check out the library. I'm sure they have it there. So it was good, but like I said, I feel like it kind of fell apart a little bit with all the characters looking the same, and the ending, the last issue wrap up just seemed a little too convenient, and it felt like it was talking about stuff that I didn't understand that relationship between the characters that he's talking about. So good one though. I mean, it ain't bad. Next on the list that I haven't read yet, from 1998, is Gordon of Gotham, another 4-issue miniseries. This one by Denny O'Neil, Dick Giordano, and Klaus Janson doing inks on it. And I mean, look at this fucking cover. Really, really fantastic. So I'm looking forward to reading these. These are I only have a few Batman books left in the collection, other than the animated series stuff. And the ones I have are all these kind of mini series, like Bane of the Demon. I've got that mini series. So I'd like to kind of dig into those again, because they stayed in the collection, because I did end up really liking them when I first read them. So very curious to give them another look after all these years. And then last and certainly not least is our girl Midge on Naughty Bits. When I got those Heavy Metal and that Margot in Bad Town, I picked up another 2 issues of Naughty Bits. So issue number 15 we talked about in the last kind of video, the last live video. It's a 3-parter, so he had the next 2 parts. So I picked those up. This is Midge in college. And I think this has been, besides the first issue of Naughty Bits, I think this 3-parter has been the strongest of the series so far. This is a really, really good 3-issue look at this character. It's amazing how she's able to write this character, because she's so fucking shallow and she's such a shit. She's such a shitty person. But you do get a sense that it's coming from somewhere. I mean, this is the first time that she's out of the house. So we don't, like we had in the first issue, there was a lot of stuff with her her mom and dad kind of talking in her head, and she's doing things and she can hear what they're saying. The way she handled that in the first issue was really nice, because those speech bubbles got smaller and smaller and smaller. So it really was a nice use of comics, again, as like a storytelling format, right? Like, to see exactly how you deal with that kind of storytelling technique, right? So in these issues, her parents are kind of not even on her mind again. She's full on. She's sexual revolution. She's found her sexuality. She's discovered that she can get the pill. She's, you know, she's partying with some of her friends, even though she hates drugs. She thinks that they're losers. She still holds some kind of like racist ideals, again, from her parents. So you really, it's done so well looking at this woman who's been kind of sheltered by her kind of really intense folks, and finally free and kind of exploring that freedom and really just wanting to fuck. You know what I mean? That's kind of what she's there for. The school is great and everything, but it's more a vessel for her to get the hell away from under the thumb of her folks. It's so good. Like, it's a really really good 3 issue story. As I was talking to Rasa about it again, it's one of those things that talking about it and thinking about it again cements it even further. Like, if you can find, if you haven't read Naughty Bits, either find issue number 1 or issues 15, 16, and 17, because I think it's a great introduction to the character and her and Roberta Gregory's writing. It's fucking top, man. It's really, really good. So as she's going through this kind of sexual discovery and this revelation, this kind of, you get an idea how she sees herself here as a super fox. There's all of this internal dialogue that we're always hearing in all of the Naughty Bits comics that are really insightful about, you know, her exterior and how she's kind of presenting herself to people and what she actually thinks. She's, like I said, she's just not a, she's not a likable person. She's really not, but there's still something. She's not to the degree where you then hate her and don't want to read the stories, because it's still intriguing to read the stories. So it's this balance of making her real, but not kind of pushing away the reader. She joins these kind of protests and things, again, just for, she just wants to have sex. She just wants to get fucked. And she has her eye on this leader of this this group here. So she doesn't believe in anything that they believe in. She's going through the motions. She's talking about ending the draft and protesting Vietnam just cause, but she doesn't believe any of it. Ultimately, what she wants is to get with him, which she does. And that kind of like just sends her even further down this rabbit hole of trying to just bed down as many men as possible. In one of the issues, I think it might have been in the last one, yeah, so, and mixed in there, there's some humor and things, but there's also this, you're looking at someone almost on this destructive path. And in the final part, she talks about joining this women's liberation kind of group where they end up sitting and talking about things, and just kind of their roles in society as women, their time in school. She goes to a party to meet somebody, again, to have sex. She finds this guy, and for one page, things get really dark as she goes back to this guy's house. Another guy comes into the room. She tries to leave, and he ends up hitting her and starting to rape her. She bashes him in the face and is able to get the hell out of there. So just kind of, again, that ability of having some pretty heavy subject matter in these stories, them still being really funny, them still being a little depressing, them still being really insightful into this person, into this person's life. It's a brilliant mix of stuff, man. So very, very impressed with this one. There's some really good moments in this 3rd issue as well, too, where you can see her struggling with things. She at one point admits in this group that she had an abortion. I don't know if it's true. It seems like it's fake. It seems like she was just saying something to say something because she felt pressure. But again, the way that it's handled is she ends up kind of hearing people's voices, but her internal dialogue goes over top of them. And at one point, she's telling herself not to say anything, not contribute, not talk about her issues. Again, this pushing these feelings down. Yeah, it's amazing, really amazing. Here's the scene where she kind of breaks down and tells these group of women about getting this abortion and not telling her parents. So amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. Issue 15, 16, and 17. So there's 17's cover. There's 16, and there's 15 here. So if you find those, I wouldn't hesitate to pick them up. Like I said, I don't know how easy issue number 1 is to find, but if you can find issue number 1, that's a fantastic place to start, because that is just a really, really funny story. This one, she's developed in her storytelling. The character has developed, so it's really nice. And yeah, I am chipping away slowly. It's great because cover to cover has a whole bunch in a row right in here. So every time I go, I'm just going to pick up 2 issues. I don't see them anywhere else. So eventually I'll just get them all that he has, but just buying them piecemeal and knowing that this was a 3-issue run was perfect. Or sorry, a 3-issue story arc rather was perfect to pick up those final 2. Sold. Perfect. Tell them I sent you, and they won't give you any sort of discount. I don't know how easy Naughty Bits is to find. I know that they have a bunch on Lone Star at varying prices. I think $2.50, $3. I can't remember, something like that. They're not super expensive on Lone Star, but give them a shot. What else? I think that was it, people. Yes, that was it. I still haven't read the 2 library books. One was Thanks to Rasa. Press enter to continue. I got to get to that one. And then I really got to get into Captain Harlock issue, or book number 2, rather. The Kayfabe guys were looking at books from 7 Seas Entertainment, and they flipped through a bunch. Ed ordered a whole bunch of the books. Some amazing, amazing stuff. Even that Lupin, he was talking about Lupin the Third in the video. I know the animation, I know the anime, and it's not really appealed to me too much. When he flipped through the book, seeing the art style in the book, very, very different than the cartoon. So very curious to read that. But yes, there's another, I think there's a 3rd volume of this Captain Harlock as well too. I loved the 1st volume, so I really got to get into that one maybe tomorrow in my other day off here. Thanks very much, everybody. It's good to see you. Brian, Colin, Gore, thanks for hanging out. And next week, we're going to be back on my channel, me and Rasa. Next Wednesday, we'll do a chat. And then hopefully after that, we're back to our Sunday schedule, because it is nice having all the people available during the chat to hang out with us. So Wednesdays, understandably, people are still at work and stuff. So we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Later.